marketplace is one of the great inventions of human civilization. It is largely self-regulating, and markets provide a highly effective means for the allocation of resources. But it is not much good for the distribution of those resources fairly. An eminent Dutch economist said not long ago that the 20th century is the story of the battle between those who believe in the law of the jungle, the market, and those who subscribe to the law of the zoo, planned economy. Today, it is the law of the jungle that has won the battle, and we can be happy that so many peoples on our planet have been set free from the zoo. But the jungle is a cruel place. The efficiency of the market now has to be tempered by the rules of social justice. Stay tuned to see how business can help design an economy that gets us out both of the zoo and the jungle.
This week on The Green Show, we have Trade Toxic, an inquiry into the international toxic trade, Tiling Right, a close look at the microconcrete roofing tile,
Silent Killer, a close-up view of the scourge of arsenic poisoning in the state of West Bengal,
That plastic bottle you throw away after drinking your cola is not as innocent as it looks. In fact, it contains highly toxic substances, and millions of plastic containers like that are now being dumped in the third world, contaminating the environment and threatening our life support systems. As the Indian economy speeds down liberalization highway, we can only expect to see the toxic dumps grow. Environmental groups around the world have started to campaign against such dumping by multinationals. A team from Greenpeace visited Delhi recently to highlight this growing menace. We'll bring you
rich in radioactivity, organochlorines, heavy metals and animal parasites are being dumped into the developing countries in thousands of tons. Be it Philippines, Indonesia, India or the other Asian and African countries, toxic dumping is the new environmental whip for the North to be used on the people of the South. The rich industrialized nations produce about 98% of the world's hazardous waste. The developed countries with an environmentally conscious citizenry were forced to make strict environmental safety and health laws that rendered the safe disposal of their waste a rigorous and expensive process. Asia and Africa were cheap and easy targets, attractive for their poverty, low wages, and a lack of environmental and health protection laws. India too, behind the chicanery of international trade, has been an importer for some very toxic wastes over the last few years. India has been receiving huge quantities of potentially damaging metal waste, tin, lead, copper waste, lead-acid batteries, plastic scrap, ashes and residues, and the latest substance on this growing list is cow dung.
I don't think there is any doubt about this in just about anybody's mind. The multinationals have a horrendous record of being responsible when they deal with the third world. For years and years now, they have either been dumping technology which became obsolete in the West or became uneconomical to use, or technology whose hazards became very well known so that there was a lot of public pressure. These kind of technologies have been simply imported into the third world to extract as much benefit from it as they can, till they can. They have never thought of the health risks, the environment risks, nothing.
Greenpeace has been involved in protecting the environment around the world for the last 20 years. Its purpose has been to find to bring about a global ban on the import and export of toxic waste through international convention. In the second week of March, Greenpeace held a workshop in Delhi to highlight the finer aspects of industrial toxic wastes and the rampant dumping in the developing countries.
That was when they said they realized they could not rely on
It was also to equip NGOs, trade union and individuals with data, technical details and other relevant information to fight this deadly malaise. Delhi-based Public Interest Research Group was their Indian partner in this endeavor.
Because what happens is a lot of this stuff is collected, that plastic recycling is technologically difficult, it's polluting, and it's uneconomical.
Well, we've just concluded our 5th Skillshare throughout India this month. And the reason we had these Skillshares is a lot of groups in India have been contacting me, or I've been in communication with them for the last couple of years, and they're very, very interested to work on toxics. They recognize it's an issue of growing importance, but they also felt they didn't have the kind of access to information they needed in order to develop good, strong campaigns against toxics. At the same time that they're very new to toxics, Greenpeace is very new to India. So we have these Skillshares where we come together and we teach each other. We share our technical information about toxics, they share information about the reality of the toxic situation in India, and then together we come up with a plan on how to fight these toxics. And we'll never win unless we do it together. The northern and southern groups, the trade union activists, the environmentalists. So one of the great things about these Skillshares is we also had participants from Pakistan and Bangladesh so that we can work on a solution at a region-wide level.
The levels of toxics in the waste is often high enough to drastically affect the human health and environment. The workshop also sensitized people on this front.
The best example of a toxic chemical and the failure of conventional regulation to protect public health from toxic chemicals is dioxin. Dioxin is a complex organochlorine that has been characterized as the most toxic synthetic substance known to science. And what we have learned, what we've clearly established at this point, is that it is not possible to manufacture elemental chlorine and to use it and to dispose of the used products and the wastes that were created during the production of those products. It's impossible to go through that life cycle without forming and dispersing dioxin and dioxin-like chemicals into the environment. The levels of dioxin in the average U.S. citizen, in the average person, are so high as to be at or near those levels that are cause for concern. Those levels at which immune suppression occurs, those levels at which effects on glucose metabolism, as in diabetes, occur.
The toxic dumping is not limited to the international levels only. Our national scenario is often tainted too.
I have never seen industrial situations and industrial scenes like those that I saw in both Nandarasi and Ankleshwar. I mean, this is industry fully out of control. There was open dumping of solid wastes. There were children playing in solid waste. There were children bathing in the leachate from waste piles. There were obviously what were chemical wastes that were running in open ditches outside the facilities. It's just fully out of control. You could see smokestack emissions that I do not see that any pollution control device would allow such what's called black stacking. And what's being created, what has already been created at Nandarasi and at Ankleshwar, are sacrifice zones.
The workshop also highlighted the legal framework within which this toxic trade can be fought against. Eminent environment lawyer M.C. Mehta, who addressed the workshop, felt the weak implementation of the laws encourages toxic trade.
These rules were framed in 1989, but now it is 1995. Nothing is being done. The Ministry of Environment, except making these rules, have not implemented these rules, and as a result of that, everywhere in the cities and in the countryside, this hazardous waste is being dumped, and this hazardous waste has become a serious threat to the people's life and health.
This workshop was a very necessary and significant step to fight the various transnational corporations' total disregard for the Third World's environment. As a group, the TNCs and their political associations have resisted laws and proposals for controlling CFC production, hazardous waste disposal, and international trade in wastes. Efforts like these by Greenpeace and Public Interest Research Group is meant to create networking among the victims of this toxic trade and stand
Ask anyone what he or she values the most. As often as not, the reply will be a roof over my head, a standard phrase now firmly enshrined in the language. A roof that keeps the rain out is, of course, the most vital part of a house, and it is also the most difficult and expensive to make. Is it perhaps from the cost of roofing that accountants got the term overheads? The cheapest roofs in India are made of thatch. The cheapest pakka roofs, made with cement or tin sheets, cost 5 times as much. Until recently, there was nothing available in the price range between these. Now, there is a remarkable new invention called the micro-cement roofing tile, which sells under the brand name Tara Crete. The tile and its manufacturing equipment are all set to revolutionize low-cost housing by opening a whole new opportunity for businesses to make money and to contribute to nation building, all at the same time.
According to the 1991 concrete roofing technology.
This is a low-cost, environment-friendly, high-performance roofing technology which has been developed especially for the rural areas. MCR tile was designed keeping in mind that we have to upgrade the lowest possible existing roofing technologies which are available in the country. On selling the technology for producing the tile. We encourage people in rural areas to take up that machine and produce tiles in their areas and take up MCR as a business. Like, we believe that sustainable development can only be got through providing sustainable livelihoods. So the MCR technology must integrate itself into the economic structure of that locality.
In 6 districts of West Bengal, an innocent-looking glass of water may well be the most deadly killer today. 200,000 people in this region are slowly but surely dying of a painful cancer caused by chronic arsenic poisoning. There is no known cure to this disease. 30 million people are estimated to be at risk, 4 out of every 10 persons in the state. The arsenic comes from the effluents of local industries and finds its way gradually into the groundwater, contaminating drinking water supplies over a wide area. The only remedy is to protect water sources and re-excavate the dried-up ponds and canals. We now journey to Calcutta to get a glimpse of this silent killer.
We are in Nabonagar, a peaceful locality on the fringes of Calcutta in Jadavpur. The quiet bustle of a new day tells us little about the silent killer stalking the labyrinthine lanes and bylanes. We head towards the house of Sushanta Roy, a small businessman and one amongst the thousands of victims of arsenic poisoning in West Bengal.
আমি 63-64 সাল থেকে ইংরেজির এই বিভিন্ন
It was in 1963-64 that I first became aware I was a sickly child.
আমার হাত একটা চোখে অপারেশনের ব্যাপারে
In 1988, when I went in for an eye operation, I was told to consult a skin specialist.
একজন স্কিন স্পেশালিস্টের পরামর্শ নিতে হবে এবং সেখানে পরামর্শ নিতে যে জানতে পারলাম যেটা আর্সেনিক জনিত
That was when I learned I was suffering from acute arsenic poisoning. My finger was cut off because of carcinoma.
ঘাও হয়েছিল সেটা পরবর্তীকালে ক্যান্সার হওয়াতে আঙুলটাকে কেটে বাদ দিতে হয় এই সমস্ত জিনিসগুলো
I have suffered for a long time. My family suffered too.
দীর্ঘদিন ধরে আমরা যে ভুগছি এই বাড়িতেই আমরা বাস করেছি বা এখানে আমাদের আরো অন্যান্য পরিবারের লোকজন এই একই রকম যখন দেখা গেছে যে তাদের গায়ে তো
Now we are sure the illnesses were caused by arsenic.
তারা ভুগছে
Many of them are not alive today.
16 আনার সিদ্ধান্তে এসেছি আজকে যে প্রত্যেকেই আর্সেনিক জনিত কারণে ভুগছিল তাদের মধ্যে অনেকে আজকে নেই
Is this arsenic calamity in the 6 districts of West Bengal is the biggest one, or in other countries similar arsenic problem occurred? The truth is that all over the world we have many incidents of the arsenic, but if you combine all of them together and compare it with the 6 districts of West Bengal, they are just a dot. This clearly shows how big is this arsenic calamity. In West Bengal, out of 17 districts, 6 districts are affected. In these 6 districts, the total population is 30 million, and the area of these 6 districts is 34,000 square kilometers. Our door-to-door surveys show that about 1 million people is drinking arsenic contaminated water, and about 200,000 people are showing arsenic related skin manifestation, which is known as late arsenic manifestation. Now these 30 million people of these districts are not suffering, but scientifically they are at risk. Now the question you can ask that is it a new one or last 50 years it's known? The truth is that we have no idea about that, but what we came to know that almost last 20 years these things are coming out in the surface. What's the reason? We do not know the reason why arsenic is coming to the groundwater, but the scientific studies all over the world, they predict that due to the heavy groundwater withdrawal there may be a geochemical reaction in underground. As a result, the arsenic rich layer started bleeding. Are we drawing too much groundwater? I say no. In 1962, when the first deep tube was sunk in Nodia, when the people of that area left the village crying that the devil's water is coming. And earlier we had only one cropping year, but now to feed our billion people, we are making 4 crops per year. So we are taking out billion and billion cubic meter of the underground water. This may be the reason why the underground rock started bleeding. Well, many other scientists are also telling that use of heavy amount of the phosphate fertilizer may also be the reason, but we are not sure about this. After 1962, we have given less importance to the rainwater as well as these lagoons, bills and lakes. Wherever we need water, we just take out the underground water. To combat the situation, the first thing should be done, note it, the first thing should be done is to use the rainwater properly. We have 2,000 millimeters of the rainfall, which is highest, almost highest in India. And we have 4,000 square kilometers of the wetland, which is almost very close to the highest value of India. But if you go to the villages, like go to the Murshidabad, you will find there is a big lagoon, lake named Dudh Sagar. Sagar means Dudh is milk and Sagar is the ocean. So they say earlier when the king did it, its water tastes like milk, as good as milk, and its area is like an ocean. But if you go there, you will find that the water hyacinths are growing there, it's almost dry. Similarly, the Betra Bill, Chand Bill, all the bills are lying like that. We badly need a watershed management. If we use properly our wetland, if we properly use our rainwater, and if we can preserve that, we can get rid of this problem to some extent. Not only that, in many countries all over the world, they preserve the rainwater, they put their water of the river when it is flooded in big lagoons. Now, in that lagoon, they're making fishiculture, they're making duckling, they're using that water for cultivating agriculture. If we do that, not only our water crisis, but also our economy will boost. What we badly need under this situation is a proper watershed management. We have used our nature recklessly, and nature now giving it back.
Big is not always better, just as small is not always efficient. Modern industry has found out the hard way that the superheated corporate growth of past decades is not the way of the future. The talk in company boardrooms today is of diversifying, decentralizing, and downsizing. Executives on the fast track increasingly realize that environment, equity, and self-reliance are just as important as the bottom line of profits. Above all, corporate survival is widely beginning to be seen to depend on corporate citizenship. It is our job on The Green Show to explore just how that corporate citizenship can be brought about, not just for the good of the country, but for the good of business as well.